One morning, Paddington paid a visit to his local bank in order to withdraw his savings. It had to do with a surprise outing to the seaside, which Mr. Brown had told them about the previous evening. Mrs. Bird had opened an account for him earlier in the year, and although he'd often given the premises some hard stares when he'd gone past, he'd never actually been inside before, let alone drawn anything out. A trip to the seaside sounded a very good excuse indeed. "I would like to withdraw all my savings, please," he announced, "with interest." "With interest?" repeated the clerk. "Oh, dear. Are you expecting a rainy day?" "I hope not," exclaimed Paddington. "We are going to the seaside." "Yeah, quite. May I see your bank book, please, sir?" "Thank you. It's all sticky." "I'm afraid I had an accident when I was doing my accounts under the bedclothes last night," said Paddington. "Doing your accounts under the bedclothes?" "Bears always do their accounts under the bedclothes," said Paddington firmly. "I was working out my interest and put my paw in a jar of marmalade by mistake." "Ugh. It hardly seems worth getting in such a mess for the sake of tuppence." "Tuppence?" exclaimed Paddington. "I don't think that's very interesting." "You only had £1 to start with," said the clerk. "Interest has to do with how long you leave your money with us." "Well, mine's been with you since Christmas." "Tuppence. That makes £1 and 2 pence in all. Perhaps you'd like to count it." Paddington needed no second bidding. He was beginning to have a nasty feeling about banks. And a moment later, his worst fears were confirmed. "This isn't my note," he exclaimed hotly. "It's got a different number on it." "A different number? You can't expect to get back the same note you put in. Yours is probably worn out by now. I dare say it's been burnt." "Burnt? You've burnt my note?" "I didn't say it had been burnt. I only said it might have been. Oh, come back." As Paddington hurried into the street, there was a look in his eye that boded ill for anyone who got in his way. Mrs. Bird had often drummed into him what to do in case of an emergency, and he couldn't remember ever having had quite such an emergency before. "What I would like to know," said a policeman later that morning, "is how anyone can manage to call the police, the fire brigade, and an ambulance all at the same time." Jonathan and Judy exchanged glances. "You do ask people to dial 999 if they see anything suspicious. And burning pound notes must seem very suspicious to a bear." "I'm afraid I got my paw stuck in the dial. Every time I called help, they put me on to someone else." "That's when he called us," said Judy. "Got paw stuck in dial. I don't know what the super will say about this." "Never mind, Paddington," said Judy. "At least you've got your tuppence interest." Paddington shook his head sadly. "I haven't even got that," he said. "I used it when I phoned you just now." "Well, in the circumstances, I'm sure Floyd's will refund it for you, and you can keep your account open. And I'll make sure you get a nice new £1 note for your outing tomorrow." Paddington considered the matter for a moment. "Thank you very much, Mr. Floyd," he said at last, "but I think I'll keep my tuppence as well. You never know. If I have trouble with my new note, I may want to call the fire brigade again."